Guys, welcome to this video. I'm gonna just do a little flow. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is benevolence for all. I've been doing a bit of traveling and kind of been in and out of hotels, and it's nice to be back home. I still have so much to post and share from my travels and adventures and synchronicities. So just a really quick energy update. I feel like the whole month has been not only fast, but then moments of just pure stillness. It seems like everything is happening very quickly, and the more that I try to stay rooted in the 3D, meaning linear, setting up schedules and having a certain plan, that doesn't ever seem to work out for me, especially lately. So going with the flow is one of those challenges for a lot of us right now, because what is the flow? Well, when I say I'm going into flow, it means I'm just letting whatever comes through from my higher self, or my higher guidance team is what I call my higher selves, come through in messages and all of that. But it's also being in synchronicity, where we just allow ourselves to kind of be present and let whatever's going to unfold. But as many of us understand, that can be challenging when we have responsibilities, especially if you have a family or a particular job that you're participating in. And so this is something that I think we're all learning to surf, so to speak. We are cosmic surfers, and there's a lot of energy waves coming in. And for those of us that are fortunate enough that this is our only job, so to speak, it can be very easy at times because we just flow. But then when other responsibilities come up, it can be challenging to format those, so to speak, at times, because they tend to be based around other people's schedules or other people's plans, we'll put it that way. So that's something I'm working with right now, learning how to balance, because I do balance and fluctuate in and out of many different responsibilities and a lot of variables. And it just seems like the old way to tell time, how long it would take things to get things done, when and what time we were supposed to do things. My eating patterns have changed. My social patterns have changed. My ways that I communicate with my guidance team has changed, and it continues to change in every moment of every day. And every time I get used to a certain pattern, that shifts or morphs just a little bit. So it does feel to me like I'm always surfing, and I was never a very good surfer, unless you call standing up on a longboard for 8 seconds surfing. So that's been my challenge. I think mostly this week, a lot of things coming up from my past, which I talked about last week as well, in a different way, a different pattern, a different representation this week. A lot more coming through with family dynamics for me this week, it seemed, as well as other starseeds and their own family dynamics. I have an ant crawling up my microphone wire. I'm sure that's symbolic for something. I will be doing a video soon on relationships. What happens if our spouse or partner is not awake in the same way that we are. I have some stories to share about that, and I'll be doing that. But in the meantime, let's go into a little flow. And in these moments where we are deconstructing, where our sensibility is being shaken up, where we are deconstructurizing, you guys, a lot of this, as you know, if you've watched these videos before, is a big play on words. So when they show me this, it's like when you reconstitute something, you take all the old stuff and you make it into something else, I guess kind of like recycling and then using it for something bigger, better, with a different value attached to it. Dua heshte kikia na ak ukuawa ashte et ine ek iawa hak uawa. Dua wa ek ikia na ak uawa ho ok ua handa ok uawa hashtra ok ur. As our new value system comes online, as we value what our new systems are offering us, so many visuals coming through. As we allow ourselves to synchronize, they're showing me a watch and our new ways to synchronize with our time. As our timescape, landscape rearranges, restructures in a constant vestibule. So I'm seeing this as reference to waves, vestibule, so for holding something. I'm also seeing this as a vector point. And it rearranges a new wave, a particle wave function. So in formation, allowing us to experience our reality in a more constructive, so to speak, I'm hearing a personification. This is a play on words. This is for sonicare. It's having reference on sonar, sonification, representation. It's like this wave format is coming through in a new representation. A lot of the stuff that I share and plays on words on this has to do with the heart frequency, golden means, and all of that. And so that's what a lot of this is a reference to. I was also shown this week that part of what I do, other than energy transmissions, in my own form, which I call energy integration, but is also bringing forward as many different ways of recognizing waves, of recognizing patterns. So that's a whole other video, but as we reconstruct, as we reharmonize with this new wave patterning, with this new wave of time formation, I'm hearing something about scattering frequencies, disbarring old belief systems. So they're showing me taking down prison bars. And they're playing with a song here that I kind of in 3 different modes right now. So I'm just going to center this galactic spin that we find ourselves within, that we find ourselves playing from in a new playing field, a new frequency production. It is a new place, a new space from which we are creating in, expanding in, expanding and expanding in. So obviously this is infinite. This new expansiveness that we find ourselves in allows us to create certain frequency patterns and hold different harmonics within which we were unable to lock or link into before. These new harmonics and these new playing systems, these new, they're showing me playing fields that are in the void, but they are void of certain spectral analysis. You guys, if there's words in here that you don't understand, it's okay, because I don't always understand them either, and sometimes I have to go back and look them up. It's all about playing, guys. Playing, play. And as we open up to this and we tell ourselves things like, that can't be real, instead of saying that can't be real, or I don't know what it means, so I'm not going to go there, it's about exploration. And they're showing us being these new space travelers. It's like we're these new space travelers, because what is happening from one perspective has never existed before in our existence, so to speak. As we line up, as we wind through these new spirals of energy that are being gifted, bestowed upon us, and those are all plays on words, we allow ourselves as stowaways to emerge from whatever compartment we had been hiding from. I'm hearing the big bad wolf, the big bad world, hiding from feeling safe because we felt safer in our own entombed, rather than being in attunement. The attunement has been made, or if we find ourselves out of tune, we recognize we may need to refit our patterns, find new players, play new songs, play different harmonics, play for a new team, so to speak. This is a play on words. Teaming with new regulations. This is also a play on words. Guys, when I say this a lot, it's probably because I'm going to go back and write this down, because there will be much more expansiveness when I write. Many of us may feel that we are spinning, that we have the spins, that we are constantly in a new spin, that we are finding so many different aspects of ourselves that it may be difficult for us to anchor those frequencies, and because we're being pulled in 10 different directions. It's so important right now to get into 0 point. For the patterns that we play into, that we are existing within. There's a lot coming in right now, guys. So they're showing me that these are all existential aspects of us. They're intrinsic to who we are. However, we do not have to say that, let's say we find a group and we love this group. Doesn't mean it's the know-all, end-all. It isn't the answer necessarily to everything. Also, we are being invited to recognize and expand out that is what they're showing with us. Like, we don't have to just be one thing. Come from here, and more paths will be revealed. More knowingness will be able to escape from the constraints, the shackles, the boxes that we have been placing ourselves in for many eons, for too long. The eons have turned. They have and are fluctuating. The spells have been broken and new spells are being cast. You are the spell makers. You are the... they're showing me witches, like we're in that, you know, we're in October. So we have the autumnal equinox. We have all of the patterns that are revealing themselves of magic, so to speak. And they're basically showing me that, putting on that witch's hat, that pointy hat, and allowing ourselves, sometimes when we put that cap on, it can make us feel more magical, but we don't just have to wear that one cap of one color, of one shape. So they're inviting us to wear many different hats. And they're also showing in that regard, which direction would you like to play in? Which direction do you wish to tune into? Would you like to maybe put down the violin and pick up a guitar? Would you like to play the piano rather than the flute? There are all beautiful instruments, and they're talking about winged instruments, winged. I'm just going to go into a little toning. They're kind of just sharing that the winged ones are also sharing with us in this harmonic balance and exchange and interplay. For as we stabilize our own fields, so too do we assist in stabilizing all fields. And this is a play on words, lots of those today. I'm just going to call them POW, P-O-W, play on words, POW. They're showing me that the winged ones are coming through right now. And for us to harmonize, and if you think of a feather, feathers can be very activating, and they're showing me visualizing wings with all of the feathers, the individual feathers, and they're showing it coming out of a heart. So it always makes me think of Castaway. I think that's her symbol, which is the wings and the heart, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me. For as you allow your own heartstrings to fly in a flurry of oneness, of knowingness, of recognition that the many feathers that you are connected to, and they're also showing me, this is in reference to the actual, if you think of a feather and the bone structure, I don't know what it's called. I'll have to look it up, and when I decide to post this, I'll share all of the information that comes through about this. They're saying it's like a carbon fiber, but that's old. Like carbon is the old technology. We're expanding into more of this translucent energy that brings us into upliftment as a liftoff. Our own rocket fuel is being provided when we come into our heart space. So this is called coherence. I believe there's many other names for this as well. I just call it coherence a lot because what I had originally learned a lot of this from was heart math. I think there might be a rainbow outside. So As you allow yourself to flow, to fly, to allow yourself to feel the translucency, and this is a big play on words, so be lucid, allow yourself to transform, allow yourself to contain within you all the properties of this, they're saying asphyxiation, not to be confused with not breathing. So allow yourself to breathe. It's the opposite of being fixed, right? You want to be fluid and flowing. So the more hats we wear and the more directions we have available to us, some may feel the overwhelming need to quell the urges of, I want to go this way, I want to go that way. It's okay to feel expansive. Oftentimes when we're lifting off, that is what happens. We can find then whatever they're saying turns our heartstrings. So they're showing me that old machine that was in a piano it was an old playing piano, and it was a gold thing in the middle of it, and I think there's little nodes that are in it, almost like a combination, and so it lines us up with certain combinations. I'm sure there'll be more information on this. I can't remember the name of this machine, but they're showing us as this golden instrument that has all of this music that's available to us, and it just depends on what mood we're in, and that mood then carries us to the particular creative access point that we are then able to access. So it is the law of attraction, it is magnetics as well. So the more we can attune ourselves in, allow ourselves to be this magnetic flowing frequency, the more it will help us stay on course for a higher trajectory. But they're saying realize and recognize that the rivers have many different currents, and they all lead to the ocean though, right? A lot going on with the throat in the last day or two again, and I believe about a year ago now there was a lot also going on with the throat, and I think also about 6 months ago if I'm not mistaken. For these higher beams of knowingness, these higher beams of they're showing me light beams of symbols coming from the sun, the central sun as well. Hold all of this information, and it reminds us to speak from our truth. If we feel like we're being forced to stay in a box and we're not able to explore what's inside of that box, then it closes everything, but it closes our ability to speak, to carry that information in us. And they're inviting me just for a moment to remind everybody that it is beyond past lifetimes. This has come up quite a bit in session work. When I work with star seeds, sometimes sometimes information will come through about somebody's past life because they're still hanging on to that bit, and they're showing me that bit means that piece, but also BYT is an information. And what the biggest message they keep saying about that is, yes, that did assist us in many ways, and because there is no past, present, or future, it's assisting us now. But the more present we can be, all of the not even the threads, I'm trying to think of the right description that I want to call it. They're saying ties that bind, all of the bindings that were associated with that past life that were lessons, so to speak. They're really inviting us to let that go, to let it go. It's in us. It's now held in our memory banks, and the more fluid and flowing we can be, the more we can utilize those as recognizing that that is no longer necessary to take us in our next step. So, for example, clearing these frequencies. Sometimes people get stuck on, well, what was I in a past life? Well, why did this happen? And that can be very valuable. So I want to clarify that. But what they're really showing is that it isn't the only value. And let's not put so much value on our past and forget that we are holding space now for that. So in this moment, we're holding space for our past version of ourselves to be able to integrate, to be able to say, yes, this may have happened to me in the past, and that might be in this lifetime as well. But that does not dictate who I am in this now moment, because in this moment, I'm digesting that, I've integrated it, and now I am no longer that person that I was even 5 minutes ago. And I've talked about this a lot, but they're showing me that there's still a lot going on in the collective as far as purging goes, where people are not, they're just hanging on to stuff. Trivial is what they're showing. And this is a play on words. So they're showing me that what is really, people are making the trivial seem important. And in addition to that, they're taking the important and making it trivial. So they're asking us to kind of reverse that. And in addition to that, that is changing our values system too. So what we might have thought at one time wasn't important is we're recognizing is important. And things that we thought were important that were really trivial are no longer being valued in the same way. But we're also recognizing too that they're showing me to play with the word trivia. Wisdom keepers. So when we're focusing on somebody else's answers to trivial pursuits, we are not necessarily in the currency, and this is a play on words, POW, verse for values as well as the currents of the river. We instead are focusing on, sorry, I was completely distracted. My husband woke up and was being very funny. So what they're showing is, let's not follow these trivial pursuits. It's not about gaining more knowledge necessarily, because the knowledge is already in us. So if we can just be still and know, we are then able to recognize what is important in this now moment, in this new structure, in this new reality. So to clarify that a little bit too, if we're guided and we're really drawn to going to ancient Egypt, because it just is in our hearts and we just feel like this is where we need to be, of course, then follow that thread, because that is where we're being inspired. That is inspiration. It's a thread that's bringing in this energy of like a spark, right? It's basically bliss. It's a bliss charged frequency, or perhaps just taking a class on ancient Egypt. So what they're sharing is it's not that it's not important, but we can integrate that now. It's not that we have to go back and do a lot of past life regressions in order to get there. If it's something we're really fascinated by and it seems like it'd be fun, ooh, I better pause that. My little guy was sharing his messages on that. But bottom line is, or top line, is it really the bottom? I don't think it's the bottom. I think it's the top. I don't think it's the top or the bottom. Balance line is. I'm just cracking myself up right now. When we're in these, we're following that. If it's really something that brings us bliss and we have fun doing it, that's what it's all about. It isn't about, I'm this way because I was, I'm using witches for example, and we're going to go a little past life. There are so many people that were really not treated well in a past life because they were a healer, or because they were a witch, or because they were a magician, or because they were a shaman, etc., etc., etc. And bottom line is, what we're being invited to do is integrate that energy now. And we don't have to say any longer, because that's that example of the box. What they were showing me is a lot of us have been hiding underneath this box, or afraid because maybe in a past life we were hung by the throat. Or burned. All of those things can yield certain things in this lifetime that we might harbor a certain fear about, or a certain frequency, or we have trouble with our throat. If that's what we feel, and it would be beneficial for us to go and have some energy work done around that, then follow that bliss, follow that thread, follow that. But then there comes a point once we've done that work to recognize that we've done the work. And we're giving ourselves permission to be done with that. So that's another play on words. What they're showing me is be done with it. If you haven't done it, then I would highly encourage you to do it, because it can be very helpful. if you've only done it a few times and you've had really amazing results from it, and you feel like you want to do more, past life regression, energy healing, you know, whatever it is, working with myself, working with a massage therapist, working with it doesn't matter who it is, that person that you're drawn to that can maybe assist you in this journey, great. But they're sharing with me that there's those other groups of people who have done all that, and they aren't necessarily finding the same joy in it anymore. And what they're showing me is put a different hat on. Take off that old cap of I am this, and this is the only thing that works for me, because that may have been right 7 years ago. That might have been right even 6 months ago. But what they're sharing with me is that isn't necessarily the truth of it now. So just ask yourself, you know, what would feel really good for me right now? And do I feel drawn to this work still? And it's okay to take a break and try something else out, is kind of what they're sharing, because these equinoxes and all of these times are about hitting that refresh button. And as we arm ourselves, and they're showing me an armoire as an army, as an armée, Hermé. So they're showing me all this plays on words, like as we arm ourselves with our own frequencies, our own freedom, and our own sovereign expression of who we are, as we recognize that we have so many tools in our toolbox, as we align ourselves with our other, they're showing me other caregivers. So if you are, again, really drawn to a certain group because it feels good being around that group, or listening to a certain starseed, some people really like the light activation flows with hand movement. Some people are drawn to working with dolphins, whatever that might be. Have fun with it. They're sharing that experiment and to kind of go into these different fields. Try that thing that you haven't tried before because you were always fascinated or curious about it. If it's working for you, keep doing it. If it's not working for you, it's time to move on, because there are many catalysts at hand. There are many changes that are in the works. And they're showing me this having an X, like there's more access points, there's more magnetic fields that are magnetics that are at play right now. So we invite you to expand in your own awareness, in your own authenticity. And this is a big play on words too, which I will play with when I write this all out. So I'm just going to end on this note and just say thank you so much for tuning in and just sharing in these videos with me. In love and light, namaste.